break here, lunch, and we'll be jumping back in, reconvene here for item 6B, the CalPERS Trust Level Review. Off we go.
Thank you, Chair. I'd actually like to start by inviting Peter and Nelson to comment on sustainable investment and our climate solutions, given that it's fairly topical and we've come out with a letter today. Peter, I'll pass over to you.
Thank you, Stephen. Peter Cashin, Head of Sustainable Investments. I appreciate the opportunity to comment and clarify on our approach to climate solutions and our commitment to decarbonizing the economy with the clear objective to generate outperformance. First, I'd like to reference the open letter that was posted today on the climate solution accounting approach. This is entitled, CalPERS Sets the Record Straight on its Climate Action Plan, and it addresses many of the comments that were raised today. First, I'd like to present the approach we have for determining a climate solution. As you know, our current climate count based on 2024 data is $50 billion, up from $47.3 billion in 2023. We have three criteria for determining a climate solution. The first is mitigation. This is a company that provides or enables green products or services. The second category is adaptation. So this is where a technology or service is used to prevent or respond to a climate change impact. In the third category, which is very important, is transition. These are companies that operate in high-emitting or hard-to-abate sectors that have credible Paris-aligned decarbonization plans. In terms of measuring these solutions, we have publicly shared our approach since November 2023, and we use globally recognized data providers such as Bloomberg, FTSE, and MSCI. And we often choose the lower estimate from this group, or at least an average amongst them, to maintain full conservatism. I'd like to comment on the CCG report. Their report states that CalPERS includes some investments in the oil and gas sector as climate solutions. Indeed, this is correct. CalPERS does classify a small proportion of its investments in the oil and gas sector as climate solutions. This is because CalPERS takes a balanced and science-based approach to classifying investments as full or partial climate solutions. And we focus on the activity rather than the ownership. We don't believe in an all-or-nothing approach, rather balanced and pragmatic, and give credit where credit is due. The report lists 7 oil and gas companies that are in CalPERS' portfolio that have a climate solution. 2% of the exposure to these companies, or $67 million, we've classified as climate solution. This is because those companies had green biodiesel, green hydrogen, carbon capture, or sustainable aviation fuel, as based on these data provided by the providers. It really is warranted to provide partial climate credit solution if it meets our criteria. And this has been part of our methodology from the start. It reflects our belief that a green asset is a green asset, regardless of corporate ownership, and it should be accounted for accordingly. A green asset on an oil producer's balance sheet is as green as if it was held by a standalone entity. I'll make a quick comment on net zero by 2050. This is what CalPERS has embarked upon, but in fact it's a requirement and an objective across the entire economy and will require all actors, including oil and gas. It is for this reason that we must engage with oil and gas companies, and we must identify and even promote the green business lines that they enter. We are in fact already doing this with our Climate Transition Index. Here we factored in climate risks such as physical risk and transition risk. And in the oil and gas sector, we've significantly underweighted those companies that do not have a credible transition plan. We deployed over $5 billion to this strategy in July 2024. I want to briefly comment on transition assets. These are high emitters that are made commitments that have been validated by external third-party providers to transition from brown to green. It's critically important that we include these types of companies in our mix because we want to help decarbonize the entire economy, not just superficially our own investments and portfolio. We want to make a contribution beyond ourselves. We've also had our approach reviewed by Mercer, most recently in November 2024, where they stated that our approach is generally aligned with global standards such as the Institutional Investor Group for Climate Change Standards. They also identified in that report potential greenwashing risks. We have taken all those on board and factored them into our methodology so that we take a conservative and resilient, robust approach. Looking forward, the most important part of our climate action plan is not what's in the ground today, but what we intend to do going forward. This is the incremental $50 billion that we plan to invest in climate solutions by 2030. As we know, we're doing that to generate outperformance, put CalPERS on a pathway to net zero, and also contribute to the decarbonization of the entire global economy. This is really our focus and our objective. And we are coming at this from each of the 6 different asset classes, and we have a very robust and strong plan in place. Thank you very much.
I have a question from Director Rubalcaba.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I was glad to hear that, you know, the understanding, I mean, the perspective, how we take a balanced look, and we're actually conservative in what we count. So I guess, and I understand the whole thing about a green bond is a green bond, but how do we, I guess, what assurances do we have that they are actually doing that? I mean, how do we know they're not issuing a bond to get cash in and get our money in? And I mean, it's a little naive question, but I just want to make sure we know that, you know, a green bond is a green bond, right? It's not, like you said, we have Mercer looking at it. We're taking a conservative approach. I just want to make sure the obvious question. I just want to make sure we're not being hoodwinked or anything like that, right?
Mm-hmm. So
just want to say it.
Yes, no, very good
so I can
point.
say, I can repeat to people when they ask. Thank you.
Very good point, Mr. Rubalcaba. So the International Capital Markets Association, ICMA, is one of the leading green bond standard setters. So issuers need to comply with that. And then there are also, particularly as it relates to transition, there are bodies, external third parties that review and validate those plans. So there is review and validation of commitments that have been made. We do rely, as I said, on external party data such as MSCI FTSE. So there is, that we need to have that confidence that they are identifying the correct amount of green revenues, the correct proportion.
Thank you. And this is exactly what I want to hear. There is review and validation. That's what I need. So the only area where I guess where there is honest disagreement is whether we should be even involved with the oil companies and all that. But because CalPERS does believe in engagement, that's what we're doing it. So I think I got it. Thank you very, very much. I'm good, Mr. Miller. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I'm not seeing any other requests to speak, and I appreciate you coming up and making comments, and we'll move on.
Thank you, Chair. Can we go to the first slide, please? No, we've already heard from